How's it going, Yankee fans? Probably pretty good after beating the absolute crap out of the Houston Astros. Today we're talking about the star being born, Jason Dominguez. I mean, guys, look, it's a small sample size. It's 3 games, not many at-bats. It is early, but the early returns from Jason Dominguez, the early discovery, the early results are very telling. And they're telling us that this guy could be a superstar. This guy has the composure, the confidence, the motivation. He's 20 years old. He looks like he's been in the league for 30 years. I mean, Ryan, you tell me. That hanging curveball he launched into the right field yesterday. I mean, the way he watched that thing go, he knew. It wasn't a Josh Donaldson pimpin' where it landed in center field like 15 feet short of the outfield wall. He sat there and watched that thing freaking go. And he did it against one of our arch rivals. Now, guys, we have been destroyed by the Astros over the past 5 years or so. We have been unable to beat them at home, away, wherever you want to play the Astros. We have been beaten by the Astros. We have really struggled against them. We may have gotten our Astro killer, guys. I mean, Jason Dominguez may be the one to bring us back to life against a team that has had our number. And sometimes you just can't beat good players. And yeah, he was electric. I mean, defensively, he's looked solid. We're going to break down kind of what he's done offensively so far, why we're so excited. Again, small sample size. I want to keep everything in context here, but a player of this kind of age at 20 years old, I mean, he looks like he's fully developed and fully grown. I can't tell you how excited I am, and we've been excited about this. We were kind of on the boat, of elevating Dominguez to see what he's got, and I think we nailed this one, Ryan. I think we were right. It was time to give some prospects some opportunities, and so far, so good. But, what was your impression last night, your reaction to seeing that second home run in 3 games? Dominguez, I mean, you look at what the other players are saying. Look what the veterans are saying. They're like, he's otherworldly. He's bringing energy to our team. Everything they're saying about this kid is he's the real deal. And if the major league guys are saying it, the guys that are proven, been in the league for a long time, that there's legitimacy to this. So what was your reaction to last night in the homer and the excitement about Jason Dominguez and his promotion?
Yeah, so I want to take this moment to kind of celebrate what Jason Dominguez was able to accomplish this year. On July 4th, 2 months ago, Jason Dominguez was hitting .202 in Double-A with a 95 WRC+. Ever since then, he's been, unbelievable. He has been remarkable. At the minor league level, obviously, we know he went on a tear. He had a 159 WRC+ after that point. In the month of August, in between Double-A and Triple-A, which, again, earning a promotion to Triple-A after really you get off to a terrible start in Double-A, he hit 391, right? Like, he was just a little bit short of hitting 400 for the month of August. This guy had an ETA on Fangraphs of 2025. That wasn't a bad take by Fangraphs, right? Like, that wasn't a poor take. That wasn't a misevaluation. That was a fair, reasonable projection. The guy comes up when he's 22. Fine, that makes sense. And Jason Dominguez, he's asked to be promoted, in September. Now, we were proponents of, hey, why not give him a shot? But I don't think you and I expected that he would walk into Houston and, facing Justin Verlander, who Hall of Famer, first ballot, multiple-time Cy Young winner, multiple-time World Series champion, hits a home run on his first swing against Verlander. Against Javier, that first fly out, that barrel that it just died in center field, it looked like it could have gotten out. He made the adjustment. He gets, as you mentioned, a hanging breaking ball, and he hammers it down the right field line. Christian Javier no-hit the Yankees last year. Christian Javier owns the New York Yankees. That guy was an absolute nightmare to face, and it looked like it was going to be the same story, and it wasn't, right? This kid is doing something special, and obviously, small sample size, we expect him at some point to struggle with something or, over a 2 or 3 week stretch, really struggling to handle major league pitching, but that hasn't happened yet, right? And we've seen him do a lot of the things that we anticipated he could do very well. We talked about swing decisions. We emphasized the importance of swing decisions, and people view swing decisions as just, oh, he's going to walk a lot. That's what you're saying. And I do think Jason Dominguez is going to work more walks, but the big thing too is he's swinging at strikes, and that's part of swing decisions. There are guys who are just very passive. They just don't swing a lot, and that makes them good at working walks because they're just very patient. Then there are guys who are super aggressive. They don't walk a lot because they're always trying to swing. Jason Dominguez is the best of both worlds. He's aggressive when it's a strike. He is extremely passive when it's not a strike. Those type of things, coupled with great power, coupled with great physical tools, is going to lead to a really good hitter. It's just a matter of if he's able to have it all kind of click. And so far, it's clicked thus far. We'll see if it continues to do so, not just this year, but entering 2024 as well.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I think there are a couple variables here when it comes to Jason Dominguez that really just promotes what he's capable of doing. The power, that's something, and that's interesting, Ryan. I find that in the minor league level, his slugging percentage, his power, like, didn't show up all the times. He was really good at making contact, was hitting doubles, extra base hits, singles, walking a lot. But why is it that now suddenly he's hitting with all this power that we knew he had? It's almost like he waited until now to be like, all right, I'm hitting the shit out of the baseball. I was, collecting my doubles, getting on base, showing my tools. Now I can add the power element back to it. What is your perspective on that? That suddenly we're seeing this ridiculous power. Like he wasn't hitting that many homers in the minor league system. He wasn't like blowing everybody away with all that slugging prowess. But what do you think's changing right now to take that next step in terms of offering that home run capability?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to kind of hark back to a previous prospect who was a big deal for the Yankees when he first came up, and similar to Dominguez, made his impact instantly known once he was promoted. And I know that people are going to like this comparison, and I'm not making the comparison saying that this is how his career will pan out, but just kind of a similar situation in terms of hype. Gary Sanchez, when he first came up, we all remember in 2016 what he went out and he was able to accomplish that season. But what people oftentimes forget is that at the minor league level, Gary really struggled to hit for consistent power. If you look between his first, between 2010 and 2015, his home run, I'm trying to just pull it up here on Fangraphs, he hit 89 home runs in 565 games, which isn't a lot for a guy that is like, super, super talented prospect, great power. Even though he hasn't panned out the way we anticipated he would, that was always his calling card. That's always been his calling card, power. He only slugged 459 in that time span, right? So it wasn't like he was going out there and crushing the baseball instantly, or, going out there and having the hard contact result in big power numbers. Jason Dominguez is 20 years old. He has some sort of swing path issue, I imagine, that the Yankees are going to try to iron out. It certainly hasn't, raised its or reared its ugly head at the major league level thus far. But the big thing for me is that he's a kid and he's going to have to figure out the swing path stuff and translate that raw power into game power. I think he's more than capable of it. I think he was struggling with that at the minor league level to do it consistently. If he can do it consistently at the major league level, man, this guy's going to be really good. Like if he ever has like a 200 isolated power, he's probably going to slug close to 500. He's probably going to, we know that he's going to walk a ton. He'll probably hover around a 350, 360 on base. If that's the type of hitter you're getting, and you're getting that with, a passable glove in center field, and we know the base running is amazing, Alex, we're looking at a really good player, right? Like this is a switch hitter that, I mean, he's hitting third for the Yankees, right? Like I can't even see her saying, oh, well, he's hitting like eighth, right? Like when Volpe came up, he was hitting what, eighth, ninth, seventh. Jason Dominguez is hitting fifth, third, and third. Those are his lineup card spots, and he's coming clutch. And he's the reason why the Yankees won that series, right? You can argue that without Jason Dominguez, the Yankees dropped 2 of those 3 games. That's how important he was in that series. Not saying that that's an indicator that he's going to go out and he's going to be, the greatest player ever, but it's a pretty good start. So I don't know. I'm really encouraged. I think that the game power can translate at some point. But I guess the question I want to ask you now, Alex, is looking forward towards not just 2023, but 2024. I feel like right now we're in a situation where it's going to be really hard for the Yankees to, try to get somebody to compete with Dominguez in spring training, and not compete in the sense of, make it so that Dominguez just waltz into spring training with the job, but it's going to be hard to justify getting somebody to keep Dominguez in like AAA to start the year, right? Like I don't think that's too crazy of a take to say.
Look, the only person that's going to come in here and compete with Dominguez in center field is like Cody Bellinger, right? Like that's the only one. Like if you're going to go and spend a ridiculous amount of cash and go and get Bellinger and then you move Dominguez to left field, look, a Bellinger, Dominguez, Aaron Judge outfield would be pretty damn fun to watch. I'll tell you that right now. But I don't think that Steinbrenner is going to be willing to give Cashman the free reign to spend excessively again. I just don't think so. Look, Steinbrenner just walked in to his office and said, you're not trading anybody at the deadline because I don't trust that you're going to trade for anyone that actually will pan out. Like, that's basically what he said. He was like, we've been trading guys away, no results. In fact, we've had net negative results on pretty much every single acquisitions that we've made. We're not doing that anymore. And is it Cashman's fault? Is it the analytics department? That's obviously we're gonna find that out this offseason, because if the Yankees go out and really overhaul this entire analytics department, we're gonna be able to see where the problems are. They're gonna bring in a third party, unbiased, to say, okay, this is where we're gonna look at the kind of inside out perspective of what works, what doesn't. Maybe it's the way that they're perceiving these analytics that's leading them down the wrong path. And I look, going out and signing injury-prone players, going out and signing or trading for older veterans that basically have no gas left to take, and consuming $50 million on their contract, aka Josh Donaldson, like the analytics should not support that. You know what I mean? Like the analytics should not say that a 35-year-old that is bound for massive regression is a good acquisition, and then taking on $50 million on his contract, and IKF, who was never supposed to be a long-term starter. He was always supposed to be a supplemental. Anthony Volpe was ready. I don't know how the analytics support that. I don't know how the analytics support a lot of these moves. I mean, look, the failure to properly evaluate Frankie Montas's medical situation, that's not the analytics. That's the medical team that they completely missed the fact that he already had a shoulder injury when they acquired him. And he said it publicly. He was like, I was injured when they got me. How do you not know that? You know what I mean? There's information that needs to be, taken into account. And it seems like they just completely missed it. I really don't get it. I don't understand how you trade one of your top pitching prospects. Even if Ken Waldichuk wasn't going to end up becoming anything special, he was considered a top pitching prospect. You can get a lot more than a rental who's already hurt. And you can't convince me otherwise. So there's going to be changes this year. Steinbrenner obviously indicated that. Now, Jason Dominguez, Austin Wells, some of these youngsters may end up bailing Cashman out of what could have been a really brutal future, in my opinion, because you look at where the Yankees were headed. We didn't have much talent on this roster, guys. Like, next year, you have to spend excessively to put things back together. You know, Gleyber Torres is still here. You still got Judge. You still got some of your top pitchers, but the outfield, center field, left field disarray. You have a lot of backups that are playing a lot of innings. You have, third base is wide open for the taking. Like, of course, the Yankees will spend a little bit somewhere, but now you have Dominguez, who's going to start in center field. I think like right now there's a 95% chance he starts in center field next year, or at least left field. I think that's a really good situation for the Yankees because it allows them to not have to spend $300 million, or maybe not $300 million, $100+ million on a guy like Cody Bellinger. And then you have to find your left fielder, who knows who that would be, Pereira, Dominguez, whatever. And then you have to go out and get a third baseman. It's probably not going to be Oswald Peraza. If it is, then, that's a best case scenario because it means he's hitting really well. But Heimer Candelario, got Matt Chapman out there on a free agency. There are options, but the Yankees are not going to be spending a lot this offseason. They're going to be making good acquisitions, but they need their prospects to step up. The prospects are going to save Cashman. They're going to save Boone. They're going to save the analytics department and Steinbrenner from a lot of embarrassment after the season, in my opinion. Dominguez becoming a superstar would be the best thing that's happened to us in a very long time because a Dominguez and Aaron Judge outfield for the next, decade or whatever, 7-8 years at least, would be game-changing. And then you have Juan Soto hitting free agency next year. Maybe the Yankees go frugal this upcoming offseason and then maybe trade for Soto or wait for Soto to hit free agency. He's not going to want to sign a long-term extension with any team that he's on right now. The Padres can't afford it, right? So, Ryan, I know you're of the proponent that, like, maybe we should trade for Soto. But unless another team goes after him, I guess it's possible. But he wants to hit free agency. What's the point of not hitting free agency? Just like Aaron Judge did, you're trying to get the best deal. An outfield of Judge, Soto, and Dominguez would be the best in baseball, and I think it wouldn't be very close. Maybe some other teams, but look, that three, if you have those three guys for the next 8, 9, 10 years, you are in really good shape. Now, the question is, can the Yankees afford Juan Soto if they go cheap? If they go heavy prospects this upcoming season, next season, you have Wells behind the dish as a starter. You got Dominguez as a starter. You got Pereira starting, or at least being a key utility piece. You have Peraza making an impact. You have Volpe obviously making next to nothing. Is there an argument to say that they could afford Soto and then bam, you're right back in contention in 2025, or even you can compete in 2024? Maybe the Yankees trade for Soto, at the end there. I guess you probably wouldn't want to do that, just wait for free agency. But what is your thoughts on that? Kind of adding that next huge piece and being a little bit more frugal this upcoming offseason.
Yeah, so the big thing, two big things I want to talk about. The first part, talking about, how does this affect the way that we view the front office if these guys pan out? Well, the way I would say it is, they've made mistakes. Yes, there have been a lot of mistakes that have been detrimental at times and have cost us this year. But if these guys pan out and if they're able to win a World Series in the next 3 years, you could fire Brian Cashman, sure, but these are his guys, right? Everyone that we're relying upon internally to get the job done is a guy that was signed or drafted under Brian Cashman. So his fingerprints are going to be all over what happens in the next 3 years, regardless of if he's the GM over the next 3 years. If the team wins a World Series, it's going to be really hard for me to sit here and say anything other than, hey, there were moments where I wasn't. There were moments where I didn't believe. There were moments where, I didn't think that they were modern enough to get it done, and they did. Right, like that. That's it's as simple as that in my eyes. Right, I feel like it would be asinine to like say, okay, if they won a World Series with this group, would you look at the front office differently? If your answer isn't yes, assuming that you have a poor view of the front office, I think that at that point you just want to not like them. You don't really care about the results or what the production actually looks like. And then to talk about the Soto point, I think everybody wants to trade for Juan Soto. That's obviously the big clarification. I think everybody wants Juan Soto. The question is, number one, will the Padres be willing to move him? Number two, are the Yankees going to be the top bidder? That's a hypothetical. I can't answer either of those two questions precisely. I can give my best guess. I can talk about why they could or why they couldn't. But the big general message here, not just focusing on Soto, is the Yankees have enough young talent to leverage in deals, and they have a surplus of young talent they could leverage in deals to get impact players to 2024 that can become part of their core. Now, I understand, as you mentioned, Juan Soto to be a free agent at the end of the year, but he is a younger guy, and you could extend him, and then he'd become part of your core. Whether it's trading for a controllable starting pitcher, trading for a controllable infielder, you need somebody at third base. There hasn't really been a standout guy. I know Peraza is there, but you haven't felt like you've been moved enough to say, yeah, if he's at third base, I trust him to hit. In the outfield, if you want to get a big-time left-handed bat, you could do that as well. There are different avenues you can take when you have a surplus of young talent. And then from if they can afford it standpoint, my answer is always going to be they're the New York Yankees. They can afford anything. Now, the realistic answer of whether Hal Steinbrenner is going to make those financial commitments, who knows, right? Like, I can't tell you, right? I don't really know. That's for him to know and for us to find out. I will say that, having a bunch of young talent makes it easier to make a decision like that. It does make it easier to stomach another big contract. And if it's a Juan Soto type, if you give him 12 years, he's going to end the deal when he's 38, right? Like, the dude is so young that you can give him 15 years and the guy's his contract runs out when he's 40, right? So that's kind of the beauty of it, where you can lower the AAV. You can kind of make it like the Harper deal. But again, that's a different conversation or a different, I don't want to speculate too much on Soto. But the overall point I think that I have, or the overall conclusion I think we can both share on this, is that, Jason Dominguez feels like it's refreshing to watch this team play, right? They're very athletic. They run a lot. They're hitting for power. They're a fun, dynamic team right now. They're going to go through slumps. They're a young team. They're going to be very inconsistent. That's number one. But number two, having young talent means you can leverage them in deals or have them help you at the major league level. And then the biggest point here, the Yankees finally have some semblance of direction, right? They're finally saying, all right, we're choosing a side here. And the side we're choosing isn't 35-year-old Josh Donaldson or, 38-year-old whoever it may be, or, another guy who's in his, a journeyman outfielder who really doesn't have much upside. The answer the Yankees have chosen, or the direction the Yankees have chosen, is, I don't know how many of these guys are going to pan out, but we're going to figure it out. And we're going to figure it out right now. And we're going to evaluate the organization and make 2024 a year where we can have a bunch of young talent and then, kind of shore up the roster and make sure they're good. They still have Aaron Judge. They still have Garrett Cole. You have those two guys. You should be winning baseball games. That's what you should be setting out to do. And I think this team is more than capable of being competitive and winning a World Series in 2024. But it's a matter of how these guys progress in 2023, which we're getting them playing time. That's a big thing. And then number two, what you do in the offseason.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, guys, but I would love to hear your perspectives below on Jason Dominguez and if you think he's the future here. I personally do. I think he could be a superstar for us. I mean, just the composure that he's shown early on in his Yankee tenure, it's something that I don't think many of us I think we expected it, but not so fast. You know what I mean? I think we were like, okay, maybe he'll struggle a little bit. He'll kick it up into gear next year. But he has started off. And look, don't look at the numbers entirely because the kid has 2 homers in 3 games. He hasn't walked just yet, but it's, again, such a small sample size. I think he has like a 923 OPS, like almost a 700 slugging. I mean, the guy is just killing it. And defensively, he's looked more of an asset than a liability, which is a good thing because there was a lot of questions about his center field quality. But I will say this, I'm very optimistic. I'm excited to continue covering his future in the near term and the long term for you guys. So make sure to keep in tune with Fireside Yankees. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.